In today's show, we're talking about three Blazer bright spots amid the bad play and the drama, who the Blazers should call if they need replacement players, and a moment of Blazers joy shared by a listener. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazer reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, and now also on YouTube. If you're listening to the show right now, go ahead and pause it on your podcast recorder. Go to YouTube and subscribe to the show. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers by 2022. That's 2,000 subscribers by New Year's. We can only do it with your help. So help me get there. Subscribe to the show. I truly appreciate it. In today's show, we're having a lot of fun amidst the Blazers drama and amidst some bad losses and some COVID nonsense in the league and the challenges in our lives and a busy holiday season here. We're gonna lean into the nonsense a little bit and have a little fun. We're gonna share reasons for Blazers optimism as asked by a listener. I'm gonna list off some names if it comes to it, should the Blazers have to add replacement players, some ideas that I've already got on deck that I'll throw out there that would be entertaining and maybe help improve the basketball team along the way. And then we'll close the show with a Blazers moment of joy shared by a listener. It is a good one. So let us get into it. Let's go ahead and get it started. This was a mailbag question sent in by listener Adam at Dame of Thrones on Twitter. Adam asked, what are three positives from the Blazers season that may have been missed among all the drama and negativity? So I skipped this one during the mailbag, to be quite honest, because I thought it was disingenuous to share optimism at the time. And people had other questions about trades and CJ McCollum and blah, 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 blah. And I try to keep it a little bit thematic. But if you ask questions in the mailbag, I save them. And so I'll use them in the mailbag or stuff like this. So let's talk about three bright spots in a season that has admittedly been bad. Like, for real, the Blazers are closer to last place, 15th in the West, than they are to sixth place in the West. As I'm recording this on the evening of December 22nd. The other real news and why we're doing this is because the Blazers game against the Brooklyn Nets has been postponed. They were supposed to play on Thursday evening, but that's not happening. The Nets do not have enough players to play in that game. They've got too many guys in protocols and haven't signed enough players to do so. I also think one of the reasons is that the Nets are supposedly supposed to play on Christmas Day, and the league just wants to hold them out, put them in the bubble, keep them where they are, and hope that they will get enough guys out of protocols, test negative, et cetera, so they can have that Christmas Day game against the Lakers and LeBron James or whoever might be available for the Lakers. Like, who knows when this will be rescheduled? The Nets do not really have another West Coast trip. They have another one like in the end of March, but there's some back-to-backs in there. They'd have to tack it on to the beginning, probably. I'm just looking at the schedule. There's not a simple way to do it. I'm sure the league will figure it out one way or another. Perhaps they'll just be a weird one-off. The Blazers once played a one-off in Brooklyn, the longest single game road trip in league history, way back when the game was canceled postponed due to snow. That was 2015, my first year on the beat. So they'll figure it out, but we were gonna maybe talk about that game a little bit, but we're not doing that here. This show, we're gonna have a little fun. I'm hoping this is a little fun. The Blazers have been, if you're a listener to this podcast, the Blazers probably haven't provided you with a lot of fun, so I'm hoping this space provides you with a little fun. So let's get into Adam's question, because there's not going to be a basketball game for a little while. It's unclear when the Blazers, the schedule to play the Dallas Mavericks next, but they've got their own COVID situation going on. So who knows just yet what's going to happen. So right now, let's find some bright spots in an otherwise down season for your Portland Trailblazers. My number one bright spot that's been kind of lost amidst the negativity is that Jusuf Nurkic is making 2-pointers. He's 5 of 25 from three, and I really wish he would stop shooting 3-pointers, but whatever. He's making twos. He's shooting a career high from the field, a career high field goal percentage. He's shooting a career best effective field goal percentage, which takes into account the value of 3-pointers. He's not making them, but he still got them. He's shooting a career best inside 3 feet. Nurk's big problem is that he misses layups, and you still see him do it. It certainly happens. But this is as good as he's ever been at it. Shooting from the floor, converting in close. You'd still like him to be better. And there's moments when it's frustrating. There's moments when he flips some up that you wish he could make. There's moments when he rushes it. There's moments when, he takes his time and gets and invites defense. You see all the problems, right? But even with that, this is like finding optimism amidst the negativity. Even when it feels like Nurk isn't having this great finishing season, and there's some frustrating moments from, it is a moment of like, or a thing to like really point to as like a bright spot is that Nurk, I've said here a bunch of times, like, just make layups. Not worried about like the most of his, there's other parts of his game that he can fix, but like just make layups is a really a simpler one that he could get there. And he's doing it better than he ever has. So that's your first moment or your first Blazers bright spot. The second Blazers bright spot is just the all-around play of Nassir Little. I had questions of whether Nassir Little was an NBA player this season, not whether he was a good NBA player or an NBA starter or all these things, but can he contribute on a team that wins games in the league? Now, the Blazers aren't winning games, but it is not because of Nassir Little. He is putting together his best season as a pro, and he's putting it together in ways where he is just filling in the cracks of his game. Early in the season, he was an elite offensive rebounder, and he was kind of making his hay, or making a name for himself, getting noticed because he was one of the best rebounding wings in the league, finding cracks and using that explosive athleticism and really good timing to grab offensive rebounds, keep plays alive, dunk home misses. A really, really, really good rebounder, and you could see it right out in front of you. And then the last 2 games, he missed the game against the Pelicans. He's been moved into the starting lineup. He isn't playing like a crazy starter minutes, but he's getting, he's starting each night in the league, and he has kind of filled in where he needs to fill in. The last 2 games that he played, he had 8 total assists in back-to-back games, averaging 4 assists in 2 games. Very small sample size, but we're looking for bright spots. And the bright spot is that as Naz, different things are being asked of him now that he's in the starting group. Some of the being asked of him now is to be a connector, not just an energy guy, but a guy who can connect and make the offense work. And his ability to drive into the paint and then kick opposite, or just make a quick, the next right smart pass. This isn't like crazy high level reads, but to swing opposite or makes the next right smart pass. Nassir Little is showing an ability to do that in a way that he hasn't in the past. And that counts as a reason for Blazers optimism, or a reason for a bright spot amidst the negativity, to use Adam's terms. I think Naz has been, to me, he's surpassed my expectations of him. Could he be an NBA player? He is that. Is he like, would he start for every, he's starting for the Blazers right now. Would he start for every team in the league? No. But he would play for damn near every team in the league, except for like the truly, truly good ones. And even then, like, could he crack the Suns rotation? Yeah, like he would help. He's that good and that helpful. And he's in a season where the Blazers need guys who bring juice and bring energy, and you kind of know what you'll get out of them into like competitive wise every night. You always can count on Naz, and he has certainly been a bright spot. My other bright spot is one that I just absolutely did not see coming, and that's Trendon Watford's defense. Trendon Watford is a undrafted player, was not selected on draft night, was signed shortly after the draft concluded to a 2-way contract, someone who I did not think would sniff the floor this year. And he's playing not because the Blazers are decimated by injuries or health and safety stuff. One injury, right? Like they've changed up the rotation a little bit, but like they don't have Cody Zeller and they need a little bit of backup big minutes. And Trendon Watford has come in and played those minutes. Now he's playing 4-minute cameos. He typically gets like 4 minutes in the first half to kind of provide a little bit of juice, but he has had his moments where you see his defensive instincts and his good hands. Is he like a rotation level NBA player? No. But can he provide, if you need 5 spot minutes, can he provide some positives in those spot minutes? Absolutely. And he has impressed me with his defensive instincts. He had, there was playing in the game against the Charlotte Hornets where they got the ball to Miles Bridges at the nail, which is like the middle of the free throw line. Got in the middle of the free throw line. And the first time Bridges caught it there, he immediately took Watford to the rack. just racked him. Just uses athleticism, jab step, get your hips inside of him, lay up, no problem. Like easy bucket, right? Like you kind of half spin to get loose, easy bucket. They went right back to him. They said, let's get this, there's a rookie in here. This is like a mouse in the house situation. Let's go get the young guy. And they went right back at Watford, and he corralled the spin, read Miles Bridges' move, and knocked the ball out of his hands for a block. Like pretty much every time he plays, he has a deflection or a block shot or a steal on a pass where he has good hands and good defensive instincts. He's also had some moments where he's just straight up looked lost dribbling, passed the ball to the other team. Doesn't really know how he fits in on the offensive end, but those defensive instincts for me, they count as a bright spot. Like this is not something I saw coming. I did not think Watford would be a contributor, and he's mostly been a non-negative, mostly just like kind of like a neutral contributor with moments of defense that impress. And for me, that's a bright spot amid the negativity for the Blazers. Those are your three bright spots. Let's move on to a little more nonsense in the second segment. Let's talk about who the Blazers might add. A whole bunch of teams in the NBA are adding replacement players as they're decimated by COVID health and safety protocols, or basically just players are entering protocols. The league is now mandating you add players. So now when you have this happen, you don't kind of wait it out and see what happens. The league says you have to add players because the league wants this thing to keep going. I think there's incentive for basically everyone involved. Maybe not like fans and media, but like everyone, the teams, owners, players, to have the NBA season keep going. And so they're mandating it's going. And so things like 7-time All-Star Joe Johnson has rejoined the Boston Celtics. So who's Joe Johnson of the Portland Trailblazers? That's what we'll talk about in the second segment. Who's Portland's Joe Johnson? But before we do that, let me tell you about Prize Picks. It's the best NBA DFS prop game on the market, offers more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator. Got your superstar players, got your end of the bench players, and it's offering props on anything you can think of. Points, assists, rebounds, threes made. Here's what you do. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, so you can win up to 10 times in any entry, and it's just you versus projected numbers. You're not playing pros. You're not playing a bunch of different entries. You're literally looking at the numbers. It'll be, Damian Lillard over under 23.5 points. You pick the over, you pick the under. And if you get it right, Prize Picks pays. I have used Prize Picks, super easy, available in Oregon. If you're listening in Oregon, like it's super simple, super quick, and like a fun way to kind of stay engaged in the game or stay engaged across multiple games. You can pick multiple sports. So you could do like, say, Monday Night Football and the Blazers game that night, or a college football, or a weekend of NFL football and a couple NBA games. Pick over under on all different types of players. Super easy, super fast. Go to prizepicks.com or go to the App Store and download the app. All users make that deposit using the promo code NBA. And if you do that, you will get a $50 if you're in your first Prize Pick entry scores a single point. That's right. All you got to do, make a deposit, use the promo code NBA, and you'll get $50 if your Prize Picks entry scores a single point. It's pretty simple. Pick Damian Lillard. He's going to score 1 point. You're going to get free $50. Do that. prizepicks.com or download the app. It's Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. Today's show is also brought to you by Boost Mobile. Boost Mobile is bringing you the power of saving money. You listen to podcasts for the power of knowledge, so you switch to Boost Mobile for that same power, the power of saving money. Get 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month and a free 5G phone when you switch, so you can get the latest episodes of Locked On Blazers or whatever podcasts you are listening to. All of that will be on one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save with Boost Mobile. And the quick disclaimer here is that free phone is limited to new customers and 1 per line. Additional restrictions apply. Offers and coverage not available everywhere for all phones and networks. See boostmobile.com for details. All right. So we talked about 3 bright spots for the Blazers amid the negativity, and I hunted for them, because I was just going to yell Dame back a bunch of times, but that's only 3 games. So we needed a little more. We needed longer trends, a little longer tail on those trends. What I want to do here, though, in the second segment is lean into the nonsense a little bit. Like I said, the Celtics signed Joe Johnson, who they drafted in 2001. Joe Johnson, 7-time All-Star, back. ISO Joe back with the Boston Celtics. The Blazers have not felt the impact of the surge in COVID-19 cases. That it hasn't caught up with them yet. Chances are it will. This is kind of the nature of I don't know, the situation here in the country and the situation in the league. It's going to. So instead of, I talked about COVID in the last episode. I don't want to spend a bunch of time doing that in each episode. Life's hard enough. This place should be fun. So let's have a little fun. If the Blazers are to get to a point where they have to bring in replacement players, who should they call? Who is their Joe Johnson? The number one name that popped in my head when I was thinking of this was Rudy Fernandez. Rudy Fernandez still playing out there for Real Madrid. He's not even 35 yet. I mean, Rudy could hoop. He'd probably take a pay cut to come join the Blazers as a replacement, but whatever. We're doing this for fun. Rudy Fernandez can handle the ball a little bit. Another playmaker. Can score, can shoot, real flair, Blazers connection, call Rudy Fernandez. And if you're calling Rudy Fernandez, here's the thing. You have to call Sergio Rodriguez. Them's the rules. Sergio Rodriguez currently plays in the Italian league for Milan. A lot of these names on this list are little guards. But little guards are fun. And also for the Blazers connections, that's just how it works. This is a team built of 6'3" players with a lot of connections to a bunch of 6'3" players in the past. You got to call Sergio Rodriguez. If you get Sergio and Rudy Fernandez back on the team, you probably have built a playoff roster. Sergio Rodriguez has been a star in Europe since he went back. The line between star in Europe and starter in the NBA is very, very thin. I don't think two players more illustrate that than Rudy Fernandez and Sergio Rodriguez, guys who couldn't quite crack starting lineups with consistency in the league, although they were rotation players, and they go back to Europe and they're stars. Like it is really, really thin. Both of those guys would help and would be a ton of fun, and you'd get the Spanish connection back with the Blazers. But if those guys don't pick up and you still need help, why not call Eric McCollum? Yeah, he's 6'1", but he's a bucket. Smoke face emoji. Dude's a bucket. Playing for Lokomotiv in the Russian league right now. One of the best scorers in EuroLeague. Like, dude has just been killing it ever since he scored 80 some in China, back in 2015. Like, dude is an absolute bucket, and it would be fun to add Eric McCollum to this roster. There's just you can't convince me otherwise. I got my, pen and pad here to plan out this episode. And I said, let's have a little fun. Eric McCollum would be fun. The other name you got to call is Portland's own, the pride of Grant High School and a current star playing for Monaco in the French league, Mike James. From Grant to Gucci. Listen, Mike James is a bucket. Dude scores. It's probably why he didn't last in the NBA. Like, he played pretty consistently for the Brooklyn Nets when they needed that type of thing. But like, he's not a point guard or a shooting guard. He's a score guard. Like, he can go score for you. The most important skill in basketball is scoring. I think in sort of the like nerd era of hoops, we want to undervalue buckets, but buckets still deeply valuable. Call Mike James if it comes down to it. Bring Mike James home. I know a couple listeners have been banging the drum for Mike James to come back. So shout out to you, Ken. Shout out to you, listener Ken, who's been on me about this. Bring Mike James home. Bring pride of Grant. Go Generals. Shout out to Northeast Portland, NEP, everyone out there. The other name that came up, and this isn't a Portland connection, but like, this is just like honestly what my brain did, was like, what is Ekpe Udoh doing? Udoh was a high draft pick out of Baylor back in the day. He's 34 years old and has been pretty good in various levels of high level European basketball. He's currently playing in Italy, but he's played everywhere. Played in Turkey, played I believe played in the Russian league for a little bit, played in Greece. Like, he's been a star. Like, I think he's defensive player of the year and stuff at Eurocup. Like, he's and first team all EuroLeague. Like, he's been a standout, and the Blazers could use some center depth. He came back and played for the Jazz a couple seasons ago and was just like a depth center, and then went back to Europe. I'm sure that's a financial thing. I'm sure the money is better to be a star in Europe than to be a minimum level guy, or like a close to the minimum level vet in the NBA. So like, Ekpe probably doesn't want to come all the way back here, but if the Blazers need center depth, they need length, they need defense, which they absolutely do. And if you're in a pinch, if it comes to the replacement Shane Falco era of the Portland Trailblazers, the Shane Falco I would like to see is Ekpe Udoh. If you don't know who Shane Falco is, Google it. Shout out to Keanu Reeves. And the final name that's definitely on my list. When I was thinking of this, I was like, I have so many guards, like Rudy Fernandez, Sergio Rodriguez, Eric McCollum, Mike James, like too many guards. This is maybe past first point guard bias. Even though I love chuckers. If you listen to the show, you know I love chuckers. I'm a pass first point guard who loves shoot first guards. So I was like, the Blazers need a little size. And the size name I came up with is none other than the Chalupa King himself, Luke Babbitt. Luke Babbitt hasn't played professional basketball since 2018 when he last appeared for the Miami Heat. He's cold chilling. Luke Babbitt's probably made enough money that he doesn't need to pursue the dream anymore. But he's big. He's like 6'9". I'm sure he can still shoot. Shooting doesn't go away. Get Luke Babbitt in the gym. Tell him that, get him like on the whatever, get him on the 2-week plan to get fit. Get him on the treadmill, get some shots up. Luke Babbitt can help. He could probably play 4 in the NBA, no problem at his size. The shooting would help. The Blazers could really use like a stretchy 4 that isn't Robert Covington, because he's not always stretchy. And maybe you could even, dare I say, play Robert Covington at the 3 for short stretches. Who could possibly think of that crazy idea? But Luke Babbitt can shoot it, and a shooting force valuable. Is Luke Babbitt an NBA player? Nah, probably not. He wasn't really an NBA player when he even was in the league. Like he was like a borderline contributor. Eric Spoelstra got a little bit out of him because Eric Spoelstra works magic with borderline NBA talents. But yeah, call Luke Babbitt. Call the Chalupa. First, bring Chalupas back. Bring back the Chalupa promo. We're tired of Nuggets. Let's get the Chalupas back, and let's get Luke Babbitt back in here getting Chalupas for the family. That's just a good idea. That's just good marketing. If you work for the Blazers, you're listening to this podcast, make it happen. Do the Chalupa thing first. Do the Luke Babbitt thing second. All right, let's come back to close the show with the Blazers moment of joy. We're having fun in this episode. This Blazers season needs fun, and the Blazers moment of joy are beyond fun. There are reminders of why we, you, dear listener, and myself, fell in love with this sport, with this team, with what we're doing here. I started this back in the offseason asking listeners to send me moments of joy. Many of them did, and a moment of joy can mean many things to many different listeners. So listener Michael was kind enough to send us a moment of joy, and I'm going to share that with you in the third segment. But before I do that, I want to tell you about Truebill. You know why free trials renew without your consent? It's a business scam to get you. So don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download Truebill and take control of your subscriptions. It's a new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions that you don't need, you don't want, or that you just simply forgot about. And on average, customers save up to $720 per year when they use Truebill. And because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel, Truebill is here to make it easy. Download the app, I downloaded the app. I've used Truebill. I downloaded their app. It took me, I went to truebill.com/LockedOnNBA, downloaded the app. In 10 minutes, I downloaded the app, connected all of my digital subscriptions, and was looking at them in the app. With one click, I could cancel them. And if it was more than one click, you're paying for a service, and a Truebill concierge will cancel your unwanted subscription so you don't have to. So don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now. Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA could save you thousands a year. Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still listening to Locked On Blazers. Talked about 3 bright spots in the Blazers season. We talked about who might be the Blazers' Joe Johnson. Bring Chalupas back. Free Luke Babbitt. Now I want to share a Blazers moment of joy. Like I said, I started this in the offseason when the Blazers kind of maybe we should have seen this coming, y'all. When the Blazers season started to get a little rocky in June, they fired Terry Stotts, and they had some really messy press conferences. And then Damian Lillard was openly questioning his future with the franchise, and the way the Blazers hired and then dealt with Chauncey Billups's introduction was sloppy and kind of gross as well. And there was some rocky times. We don't need to relitigate them. I don't know why I dragged you through that again. I apologize, y'all. But there was some rocky times, and so I came up with this idea. It was a Blazers moment of joy. We needed some more joy and when we talked about and thought about the basketball team. So I put out the call to listeners to send me a moment of joy, why you fell in love with the team, a moment you remember that brings you joy, or just whatever, when you hear Blazers moment of joy, what that sparks in you. And many listeners have sent me theirs, and I really appreciate it. And I save them because I got a bunch in the offseason and we just didn't get to them. So I'm rolling them out now in times of trouble. Blazers moment of joy comes to me. So that's what we're going to do here. This one comes from listener Michael, who writes, I grew up in the banal, expansive prairies known as the Midwest, Omaha, where the biggest local ticket is the Creighton Blue Jays. That's where I became a fan of the game at Creighton games with my dad. Side note, Anthony Tolliver was the shit. Hey, Anthony Tolliver might still be cool. You don't know. He wasn't a very good NBA player, but Anthony Tolliver, Creighton's zone was pretty cool. Michael continues, my old head dad saw Oscar Robertson play for the Cincinnati Royals, lived in Boston during the Bird years in the 80s, and then in Seattle in the 90s. I had a Detlef Schrempf poster in my bedroom until I was 18. While we're not close, basketball is collectively our favorite sport as a family. Enjoying the game was and is a family pastime where we tolerate each other's company by sharing joy in the sport together. I look forward to sharing these moments with my family every time I see them. Around 2006, my older sister escaped Nebraska and moved to Portland, the same year as Brandon Roy and LaMarcus Aldridge were drafted/traded to the Blazers. I say drafted. You're getting in the weeds when you say traded. At the same time, pretty much 2007, the Sonics were playing their last season in the Emerald City. I needed a new team, so I took up the motley Blazers with Steve Blake, Travis Outlaw, Joel Prisbilla, Rudy Fernandez. Fast forward 3 years. It's April 23rd, 2010. I'm 14 years old. Being a Portland fan had amounted to very little so far. Luis Scola sinks mid-range jumpers in my nightmares, aside from several late-game heroics from Brandon Roy, my favorite player. I'm sitting together with my sister in our grandmother's living room watching Game 4 of the 2010 first-round series between the Blazers and the Suns. It was your boys Nick Batum, LaMarcus Aldridge, Jared Bayless, Gerald Wallace, Marcus Camby, Andre Miller, and 8 days off knee surgery Brandon Roy versus peak Jason Richardson, Sean Marion, Amari Stoudemire, Steve Nash, Leandro Barbosa, Goran Dragic, Jared Dudley, and Lou Amundsen. How did Lou Amundsen make this email? Congratulations, Michael. First Lou Amundsen mentioned on the podcast. Michael continues. The Suns had blown the Blazers out in games 2 and 3 following an early Blazers win, and Roy's proverbial break-in case of emergency glass case was shattered. He was brought in the early second quarter to save the day to absolutely thunderous roars from the Portland faithful. This riled me up. I was already emotional from dealing from the loss of my grandmother, the matriarch of the family, and seeing Brandon jeopardize his health and future in the sport so that so many people could celebrate his triumphant return brought me a formative basketball fandom moment. Excitement, joy, and amazement. He followed through with a vintage B-Roy performance, a masterpiece, tying the game with a 3 with 5 to go, then nailing the dagger elbow jumper with less than 2 to play to seal the game. I remember jumping up and yelling because I knew we had won. It was written all over everyone's faces, even with a minute and change to play. Unlikely to win a championship, the team had come together around Roy, their leader, to win Game 4, all while holding the great D'Antoni Suns to 87 points. I loved that team like they were my family. But the Suns would win the series, leaving me to pick up the pieces of what was a valuable lesson about life and Blazers fandom, that it's a winding journey, a whirlwind of emotion and high stakes, all with little promise for meaningful payout in the grand scheme, and likely a somewhat sad ending. But that doesn't mean we can't enjoy the ride. Much love and thank you, Michael. Michael, this is a special one. Thanks so much for taking the time to share this story. That game, the B-Roy game, sticks out to me. I remember him going to the scorer's table. And as he goes to the scorer's table, Jared Bayless raises up and hits a 3-pointer, and the crowd is going nuts. I believe the Blazers went on a 9-0 run from the moment that Roy got off the bench until he checked in the game. It was like the magic of B-Roy had inspired them simply by just standing up and deciding to play. It's also a reminder that those moments, that little moment packed in, what was a first round losing series, can be a moment of joy, and that you should, as much as you possibly can, hold tightly to those moments, hold tightly to your joy. Life and basketball are challenging. Blazers fandom has not often given you a bunch of rewards. It has challenged you if you're into this team. And that's the reason that we do these moments of joy, to remind you that when a little moment pops up, when Trendon Watford blocks Miles Bridges, when Yusuf Nurkic starts making layups more often, when Nazir Little starts to see the floor better as he gets more time, to hold on to those moments of joy, when Brandon Roy gets off the bench, knowing that he's less than 2 weeks removed from meniscus surgery, but it's special. Remember those special moments, cling tightly to them, and cling tightly to all of your moments of joy. Michael, thanks for sharing that. If you, dear listener, have a moment of joy, send me an email, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. I save them. Honestly, I'll just be honest with you. No guarantee when I use these, but the Blazer season is a little bit rocky, so we might do them more often, probably once a month or so. But if you have one, share it with me. I'll save it. Michael sent this to me months ago, back in August. So I hold on to them. I keep them, I file them away, and I read them because if nothing else, I really enjoy them, and I hope you do too. And it's a reminder that joy is fleeting, but joy is deeply important. So cling as tightly as you possibly can to it. That is going to do it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed the nonsense. There'll be more basketball and more stuff coming, but there's no Blazer game on the horizon. So I wanted to take this moment to bring you a little bit of nonsense. We're going to have one more show this week. This is Thursday show. It's going to be out in your feed December 23rd. I'm doing my best to get a certain athletic writer on the show for what will be Friday show, December 24th. It might not work out because our schedules, I'm on the other side of the country. He has a job. It might not work out for us, but I'm doing my best. So there will be a show for you Friday on Christmas Eve if you're looking for it. Regardless, we do a daily podcast here. So subscribe wherever you get podcasts, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate the support, and tell your friends to do the same. People hear about podcasts by word of mouth. Tell your friends. If you have a friend who's a Blazer fan who might like the show, if you tell them, you can help me. You can convert a listener simply by telling someone. That is the absolute best advertising you can do for the show. So do that. Come back soon. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.